I'm originally from Harlan, Kentucky. Was born and raised there. Went to Harlan High School. Well, my dad and my grandfather, they're both prior enlisted. Dad was in the Army, and my grandfather, he was in the Marine Corps and the Navy. And I thought about that a lot. I used to look through my dad's old photographs and stuff, and just picture myself doing what he did. And I'd run up in the woods with my little plastic bayonet and act like I was shooting people and killing insurgents and stuff. I always liked the outdoors. I remember one Christmas I got some MREs, and I thought that was the greatest thing ever. Then opened them up and ate them, and it's pretty bad. They're terrible. Still hate them. I was a good student. Ended up, I think, finishing like 9th out of like 40-something people in my graduating class. Did well enough to get accepted to Berea College on a tuition scholarship. I dropped out, and I worked for like a couple of years, just on my own. Ended up getting a job at the Kentucky United Methodist Home, and I was a youth counselor there, and really loved that job, and that's kind of like my foundation of wanting to major in psychology now. No, I had talked to him previously in high school because I wanted to weigh all my options. I talked to the Navy recruiters, the Marine recruiters, and the Army recruiters.
What was it about the Marines that just sold you?
My perception of them, they're just a bunch of badasses. Just go out there and whip it on. And I always heard that they were the best of the best, and that's kind of what I wanted to associate myself with. I just told my recruiter, I was like, listen, I want to join. I want to do it soon, so I can get out there and I can get done with it and go back to school, because I realized at that point in my life, after working, that there really wasn't that many options for me with just a year and a half of college under my belt. I went and talked to the recruiter, and probably maybe 9 days later, I went to boot camp. There's a bunch of yelling at us. We go stand on these yellow footprints, and at that time I had kind of long hair, and I kept it. It was about down to here, and then we went in there and they started shaving our heads, and started shaving mine, and they told me to bend over. Just all my hair just fell down. I almost teared up.
Really?
Yeah. It was just basically like I needed, to move forward, and as I said earlier, I needed to get something, going in my life besides, just working. And the Marine Corps was my way of, going back to school. My dad, he just told me, just do everything that you're told, do it fast, and you'll be okay.
Was that true?
Yeah, it was true. During boot camp, hardly ever got in trouble. I was always, one of the first people, done. The only thing I ever really got in trouble for was drinking milk.
Really?
Yeah. My senior drill instructor told us it didn't hydrate us. And I drink milk with about every meal. And so one day I decided to slip some milk, and I paid for it. He's like, okay. He's like, you're going to go pay in that sand pit. So I was over there for about 45 minutes to an hour doing push-ups, jumping jacks, putting sand down my trousers, sand down my blouse. After that, I didn't drink any more milk. Well, prior to joining, I really wasn't a big supporter in the Iraq War. And I don't know, I kind of had iffy thoughts on Afghanistan, didn't really know much about it. But Iraq, I didn't really support it. But I knew that, when I joined, that might be an option, that I'd have to go over there and serve. And I was fine with that. You went to Marine combat training for I think it's 4 or 5 weeks.
What was that like?
It sucked. It was probably the suckiest part of my training. It was in North Carolina, and I think I got there in early January. So it was the middle of winter. We're outside. I was having to shave every day, cold shave. It was terrible, and just terrible living conditions. But you just adapt to it and get used to it after a while. I went to Del Mar, California for my school for the AAV, and the whole time when I was in MCT, I was just saying California dreaming the whole time, because it sucks so bad there, and I just couldn't wait to get out to California and sunny San Diego.
What was San Diego like?
That was nice. I'd never been to California before. I actually never been on an airplane like before.
Really?
Yeah, like until I, like flew over to my school, and that was kind of nerve-wracking a little bit, but I got over it. Like a little bit. Like I get comments like, "Owens, I bet those are the like first brand new pair of boots you've ever owned, aren't they?" And like a lot of people, like come from Kentucky, like they think you're inbred and retarded, and I tried my best to, show them that we're not all inbred and retarded. That only some of them are.
What does AAV stand for?
It's a amphibious assault vehicle.
Amphibious assault vehicle?
Yeah, basically it's like a big tank, track vehicle that can like that the Navy can deploy from ships, and it's about 27 ton. It floats in the ocean, made of aluminum, and you can drive it almost anywhere on land.
Were they using these in Iraq and Afghanistan?
They were a little bit, but by the time that I got to my school, they were starting to phase them out because they're really like no armor on them, and it's a personnel carrier, fit about 20 infantry guys in the back, and a lot of them were getting hit by IEDs and just like tearing the AAV apart. So that was something that initially scared me about it, because our crew chiefs, our instructors would show us pictures of their AAVs and they'd just be completely demolished. Getting to drive an AAV straight into the ocean, it was scary at first, but it was also pretty awesome, driving this big tracked vehicle directly into the ocean. Like you wouldn't think that it would, float, but like you'll be surprised. We got to do some training. It's called Mojave Viper. They actually brought like Muslims in to be role players and stuff, and to live in like this little town out there. And we'd have to like conduct daily operations out there. So that gave me kind of a good idea of what we'd be doing and what we'd be looking for. They put us on a plane, and I believe it was March Air Force Base, and we flew to New Hampshire, stopped over in New Hampshire for about an hour, and then flew to Germany, and then we flew to Kuwait. We stayed in Kuwait about 3-4 days to acclimatize to the weather, and then we flew straight into Iraq on C-130. Basically, our mission there was to conduct like some security patrols, and then we're also in charge of maintaining 2 different checkpoints, just out there near, I believe it was Hoklania, and another one that was like in the middle of nowhere, like along MSR Bronze, one of the main highways. Actually, the company that we relieved, they'd lost a couple of guys.
Really?
Yeah, from IEDs and stuff. And they did a good job training us up and telling us what to expect. And but it's still like really nervous. Like no matter how much you train or like how much you do, you're still a little bit nervous. The first time you go out. No, it was nice. I mean, we got to work side by side with the Iraqi Army.
Really?
Yeah, and we got to help them train. Like train doing patrols, like contact drills and stuff. And like a lot of them were like really nice. And I mean, you basically find out, they're, just a person just like me or you. Just my first few times out, just out in the city with the civilians, like they didn't like it so much.
Really?
Yeah, so I was just.
How could you tell they didn't like it?
They would like flip you off, blow kisses at you. I don't know what that means, but and they would just like stare at you with like an evil stare. Even the kids, and try to throw candy to the kids. They wouldn't even take it. At Haditha, we would wake up, go to our vehicles, like check out our weapons and stuff, go out on patrol, or go like on a like resupply to one of the checkpoints, come back, eat chow. It's terrible.
What kind of food did you eat?
A lot of MREs.
Really?
Yeah.
This was in 2006?
Yeah.
They didn't have hot chow?
They had some, but it wasn't that good. Usually, like they had like one meal open. It was usually dinner. Our base, we actually stayed in the Haditha Dam.
You stayed inside a dam?
Yeah. And we had the Azerbaijan, like they had their little army there, and they were basically in charge of the FOB security. They did the vehicle checkpoints or the like entry control points.
This was another country in charge of all the security.
Yeah.
How'd that make you feel?
I'd rather, our own country be in charge of our security, but they seem like they did a pretty good job. So.
Did you get to interact with them at all?
Yeah. Like we named one of them like Paul Wall. He had a big gold grill.
Okay.
I don't know. He's crazy. Like, oh, United States. Well, after Haditha, we stayed up there for a couple months. They shipped us down to Baghdadi, and our little fob was right in the middle of the Iraqi police barracks place, whatever you call it. And we got to interact with them a lot. We did a lot of security for them. And the kids over in Baghdadi, they're pretty funny. Like, they loved us because we always gave them candy. But I had to keep a slingshot up in my turret to keep them away from the vehicle so we didn't run over them. But I'd slingshot them with hard candy. So
quite a bit. Kids get run over.
Not with us, but they would still try to run in front of the vehicles, and there was a couple times that we almost hit a few of them. So I usually just tried to just use my slingshot and just propel candy like farther out away from the vehicles so that we wouldn't end up running over any of them.
Did you have any interactions with the kids?
Yeah. Actually, the kids, like our first day down there, they surrounded our vehicle and they were talking to us and stuff, and they're like, "Hey, what's your name?" And I'm sitting up in the turret, and I didn't want to tell them my real name, operational security. So I was just playing around. I was bored. And I was like, "Hey, my name's Penis." And so they started calling me Mr. Penis after that.
How long did that go on for?
Probably about 4 months. And other units that would come into our little area, and I'd overhear them like, "Who's this Penis guy?" And but the kids loved it. I gave them candy and everything.
So Mr. Penis is pretty popular.
Yeah. I mean, one day, these kids will tell their kids, about the Americans, and hopefully, they tell them about Mr. Penis. I don't know. I mean, it was fun at the time. There's really not a lot to break the boredom and the monotony of the day-to-day operations. Well, I was like one of the last people to get to my unit, so I was like the lowest ranking guy. And so I was on trash detail, getting to burn trash all the time. And we'd go out there and we'd shoot flares to light the trash on fire. And this one time we were out there doing it, and I found this unmarked flare, and I was like, well, it looks like, this red pop-up. And I shot it off, and it was a red smoke flare. So this big red smoke plume just came up, and I got in trouble for that. But we were also the QRF for a little fob, like my squad, and we get called out like all hours of the night, and we're always doing patrols. Like we at least do 2-3 patrols a day, so we're just operating, basically like 24/7. And there was one time we were up for about 22 hours straight. Like we, went on a few patrols, and we had to go out and watch this bridge for about 10 hours, and then we're on our way back, and it's raining. It's cold outside. We're just all, let's get back, hit the rack, catch some sleep. Maybe about 500 meters from the base. And I'm sitting up there in the turret, and I just see this car just swerve over toward the Iraqi police. Just see this big flash. And I was like, oh shit. And my crew chief was like, what's going on? And then he heard the boom. And I got pretty mad about that. Just, we had to be out there a few more hours. But that guy, he was trying to kill like the head Iraqi policeman. His name is Colonel Shaban. There's like a couple attempts on his life. But the only person that he hurt was himself. He detonated himself like a couple seconds too early. And then we set up our cordon around it, and we ended up seeing like half of his face just sitting there on the asphalt, and you see like an arm like over there.
So you saw the body up close?
Yeah.
And does that image haunt you at all?
I can still picture it, fresh in my day. I mean, like today, it's like fresh in my mind, but, it really doesn't haunt me. It's, I guess, just part of war, I guess. Luckily, our unit was one of the first combat units to be out there every day, and to come back with everybody, still intact and alive. We did have one casualty that got sent back to the States from like another platoon. He had hit an IED and crushed his elbow. But other than that, like our unit, we, all came back together. Oh, like I was still a crewman, but this time we got back on our AEVs and started training back on them. And I got promoted to crew chief, and so that gave me a little more extra responsibility.
You promoted in rank too?
Well, I got promoted to Lance Corporal when I was in Iraq. I was a PFC when I first went over, but I got back, I was still a Lance Corporal. And I was like one of the only Lance Corporal crew chiefs, so I took pride in that. It was basically about, we got back in May of 2007, and we went on our next deployment, I guess about a year and a half later. We just did a lot of training on the vehicles. I got to go to Korea for 28 days.
Okay, let's talk about that for a minute.
Okay.
What did you do in Korea?
Basically, we trained with the Korean Marines, and as part of this training exercise called Operation Full Legal.
Okay.
And basically like simulates like, I guess like an invasion by North Korea. So this is just like a joint exercise with the infantry and, like air wing and whatnot.
What'd you think of the Koreans?
No, they're nice guys. Those are some tough guys too.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you learn anything particular about Korea that you still carry with you?
I learned that I didn't like kimchi.
Kimchi?
Yeah.
What's kimchi?
It's like a spiced cabbage, like fermented spiced cabbage. It's terrible. But there's some people that did like it. But
not you?
No.
Okay.
At this point, like my first tour, like we did a lot of good work over there, and we were able to establish like a city council in the town of Baghdadi, and I got to see a lot of progress that was being made. And that's like part of war that's never like shown on like Fox News or CNN, like the good things that happen.
So you felt like you were making a difference?
Yeah. And after being over there, after my first time and experiencing that, and just the different experiences, that I've been through, I was like, if we're going to be over there, we might as well finish the job, do the best that we can. For like our first 4.5 months, we just basically trained the whole time. And then we got moved to Rutba, which is near the Syrian border. And we got stationed in a place called the Korean Village. And we did like a few patrols there and like a few resupply missions. And basically I just tried to work out a lot, pass the time. I read a lot. I was trying to get myself, ready for college again. So I probably read, I'd say about 40 books while I was over there on my second tour.
What kind of stuff did you read?
I read everything. I read philosophy books, just like, some of the classics, some like contemporary literature, like Slaughterhouse-Five. Read some Karl Marx, just, trying to get my mind, back in shape, for going back to school.
So you got a Marine reading Karl Marx in Iraq. That strike anybody as odd?
Yeah, I caught a few, like a little bit of flack from it, but, it was my decision, like I need to, there's nothing wrong with learning anything. So, even though, you may have opposing views, against his, it's still best to know like what his views actually, stand for. And yeah, I'd say a lot. I applied to Eastern, my second deployment when I was in Iraq. That was kind of hard, just waiting for, a package to get over there, like an acceptance letter. It seemed like it took forever. But I was able, to apply, to Eastern and, get everything in line for when I did get out. Well, I wanted to go to a smaller school. I wanted to, be able to, speak with my professors, be like in a smaller environment. And EKU, fit the bill for me. And geographically, it's around the area that I grew up. So, you just kind of, fit, for what I was looking for in school.
Came to EKU, what did you decide to study?
Psychology. I've always been interested, in helping people, that are struggling. And, after being in, there's a lot of guys, that came back in our unit with PTSD. And and if I'm able to, help them at all, my brothers, something I want to do. I had like problems sleeping, like a little bit of insomnia, staying up, way too late. Just kind of felt on edge a lot, but those feelings, kind of subsided after a while, and I was able to deal with it.
Did you get any help from the VA or the military?
No, I just,
Time.
yeah, I mean, it's just time, time to wind down for me. I mean, everybody's different, so. Well, yeah, just kind of going back to before I joined the military, working with at the youth home with kids, and I worked with a lot of kids with anxiety disorders, and I loved my job there while I was at the youth home and helping them, and just kind of carried on into the military. Like seeing guys that have problems, I like to help them and help them live a better life. I mean, that's the plan. Hopefully I can get a job with the VA hospital, and help facilitate some action that or treatment or whatever that they need. I have a lot more discipline. I show up to class early, pay attention, take notes, and I just kind of I have to thank the Marine Corps for that. My discipline that I have now. Well, hopefully I graduate next spring with my bachelor's degree in psychology, and hopefully I can go to UK and get my master's in social work. I'd say yeah, I'd do it over again. I mean, I met some great people, and I have some great friends, friends for life, and have good experience. And now I'm reaping the rewards, from my service. I get to go to school for free, and I would do it over again. It was like a life-changing experience, really.